Joining me now, Pamela, Evette, Lieutenant Governor, South Carolina, candidate, Republican for governor. Pam, thanks for joining us today.
John, thank you so much for having me. You're right. It is a little chilly here in South Carolina. We're not used to snow and sleet and cold weather, but we're tough here, and so we're gonna plow right through it. No pun intended, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they were afraid your staff. By the way, Matthew Goins, your comms director, great guy, gets back to me. I love comms directors that care about the candidate, but or their boss, but know what they're doing. And he's been fabulous to work with. So I got to give him a shout out.
Well, thank you. Yeah, he's done a great job. All my whole team has leading in the polls, beating everybody in fundraising. It's good, but I'm going to keep running like I'm losing because the governor taught me well, right? He's kind of been my mentor in this, and so we have had a really we've had really great news since I've announced in July.
Well, listen, I think your campaign has taken off. I mean, we thought Nancy Mace, Congressman, would be the favorite there. I think she's running third in the polls. A friend of mine, total disclaimer, I know Nancy well, worked with her in the Trump campaign in 2016. She was one of my best go-to people. Great lady. But look, you gotta win the election, right? Tell me, when is your primaries in May, right?
No, it's June. June
June.
9th is the primary here in South Carolina. And, South Carolina is a proud Trump conservative state. Really, our election, John, is the primary. So, I don't see a whole lot of traction with our Democrats here in South Carolina. We are a supermajority in the House and the Senate. All of our constitutional officers are Republican, quite different from where you are, right? In DC and Virginia and that whole area. But it is it's just about getting everybody out. You're hearing the president talking about it now. We got to get everybody out. Republicans have got to get out and vote in the midterms here in South Carolina. Republicans have to get out and vote in the primary.
Your primary system in South Carolina, is it a straight plurality, or do you have to get over 50% to avoid a runoff?
Yeah, 50 plus one right now. There are legitimately four people in the hunt for governor. And so it is going to be interesting trying to win this without a runoff. I'm working really hard, John. I tell people all the time, nobody's going to outwork me here in South Carolina.
So basically, you're going to try to outwork everybody. You're leading in fundraising. You're leading in the polls right now. You've been a Trump supporter, no doubt about that. Your record on that is very clear. You're 100% MAGA, and so those that are running in the primary. So, for instance, if they're like a sitting congressman like Mace, she would have to give up. She gives up her congressional seat, right?
Yes, absolutely. So they'll be running at the same time. Filing is at the end of March. So right now, nobody, filing has not even opened. So
Right.
we'll see what happens and who actually brings in their check and signs their name on the bottom of the paperwork. But right now, yes, we have four people in. We have two Congress people that are running. They will have to give up their seats, and then it's myself, and
See,
it's
I don't know why
great.
they would do that. I mean, you're leading in the polls. This is just my conjecture. I'm not involved in their campaigns. But if I'm Mace and I'm in third, why give up my seat in the low country that she's battled so hard to win? And I think she's effective there. If you're Ralph Norman, obviously, you're one of the biggest deficit hawks you've got in Congress. Why would you give that seat up? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's just
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I've made it an art form to not speak for anybody but myself, and so, I'm sure they have their reasons. But South Carolina needs, when I announced in July that I was going to run for governor, I made a promise to the people of South Carolina that I would hit all 46 counties. And on December 16th, I hit all 46 counties here in South Carolina, really listening to the people, not just in our urban areas, but in our rural areas, which we have a lot of. And the overwhelming consensus is that people want a business person. It's very similar like President Trump. People are tired of the status quo politicians that have used this as a career, that have never had to sign the front of a paycheck, that have never had to hire and fire people, never had to deal day to day with government overreach. That's what they want as their next governor. And I believe that that message is what's resonating with the people of South Carolina.
Pamela, tell us about your business background, as you just mentioned.
Yeah, so I started a payroll HR company from an office in my house, and I grew it into a national company. We operated in 49 states. And so when I say I've seen government overreach firsthand, I have. And I've had to help my clients, large and small, grow through that and continue to thrive. And John, that's what made me excited when the governor asked me to run with him as his lieutenant governor. I'm the first lieutenant governor ever elected with a governor. And so it's been great. And I've taken that to my role as lieutenant governor, all the lessons I learned in the private sector, and I'm going to continue to do that as governor, making sure that we start to leverage technology, something President Trump has done within government. We should be running just like private business. It can't be 100% the same, but you can use the same principles. We got to get rid of regulations. President Trump said in his first term, when you add one, you got to get rid of two. He got rid of four. In this term, he's saying when you put in one, you got to get rid of 10. I'm telling the General Assembly we need to sunset all of our regulations and bring them back up and see if they're effective. If they are not, let's get rid of them. If they are, let's make sure that we're not giving too much gray area so that our bureaucrats can, put in their own little twist to something. And so those are things that business people want to see. I want to see South Carolina be the most business-friendly state in the country.
All right, you're in a very conservative state, and so is Texas. But I just want to get your take politically. I know you had a business background, but you're a lieutenant governor. You're running for governor. The special election in North Texas on Saturday night. This was a Trump plus 17 district. The Republican candidate was a pretty good candidate. Lee Wambass, executive, Patriot Mobile, good-looking lady, smart, intelligent, worked hard, got trounced by 14. There was a 31-point swing in a North Texas Senate district. What is going on here, Pam?
Some of this stuff, John, I think is apathy. People don't get out and vote. Here in South Carolina, we are a very proud Republican state. And in the last primary, we had less than 13% come out to vote. And when that happens, anything can go wrong, especially, and now this is a scheduled primary that I'm talking about at 13%. So imagine when these special elections come up, people are winning by 1 and 2 votes sometimes. Mm-hmm. So, what we have to do is, John, and you have a big outreach. How do we get Republicans voting? I have people tell me all the time, wow, just stick with business. Your opponents can't answer any of these questions. They can't problem solve the questions we're asking you. But, business people are some of our, most unreliable voters because they're busy and they think, oh, it's going to be fine.
Right.
And I think when you get in those really hard red districts, people just think, oh, we're going to do okay. We have got to run every race like we're losing. We've got to get out and vote like a Democrat could take over any part or, of our state or our country. So I don't know how we get people excited, John. Maybe you can help with that.
Well, you got to, and I think part of the problem right now is our base is not the Trump base, the MAGA base, which are the core of my listenership. They're not motivated. They're despondent. They're dispirited. No arrests. Nothing happening. Didn't like the, kind of the disaster going on with ICE and backing down and whatever the perception is there. So I think all these things are contributing to it. But here's the silver lining. The midterms are 1 year out. If we were sitting here February 2nd, 2024, not a person thought President Trump was going to A, be nominated, and 2, win, right? So a lot can happen in a year with the economy. Same thing that's going on with the Palmetto State. So I think you're on the right track here. And you've been behind President Trump. You've been part of the MAGA movement from day one. Give us a little insight in that, Pamela.
Well, John, I'm like most people that jumped on very early with the president. I wasn't even in politics. I was running my business. And when I saw him come down that escalator, I was sold. And I didn't know a whole lot about him, but I knew he was a businessman and I knew he wasn't a career politician. And that was all I needed to know. And so I got behind him then. And, my husband and I, we did all we could to make sure that he would be successful. And I was shocked when President Trump called me in January 23. His team called and said, he's going to announce his candidacy. He's coming to South Carolina. It was a Saturday. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm the only person, John, that's running for governor that stood with the president. Everybody else was nowhere to be found. And they can give you a million excuses, but it was a Saturday afternoon, not a whole lot going on a Saturday afternoon. And I think loyalty matters. I know the president did a great job in his first term. I knew he was going to be phenomenal with all the lessons learned from that first term. I was proud to stand with him. I traveled with him to New Hampshire when he asked me to. I was at all of his rallies here in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, fundraised large numbers for him. And so I'm just overjoyed. And now I think America has to do his part again and make sure that we get out in record numbers to make sure we win these midterms. Because if not, we're going to have an agenda that just gets stalled. We're going to have Democrats trying to impeach our president every single day, like we saw in the first term. So I'm proud to be with President Trump. I'll be with him till the end. I believe in what he's doing. I believe that he is making America a superpower yet again around the nation, not acting weak. Peace through strength is something he has demonstrated very well over his time as president.
Pam, I love the fact that you've been to every county. That means you're engaging the grassroots, which you need to do in order to get them out to win this primary and get in the runoff, because it doesn't look like anybody's going to get over 50% just looking at it. And you have some good candidates in there, so I don't want to shortchange them. But you should get in the runoff. You've been to every county. What are voters telling you? Tell us what they're saying. What are you hearing?
Well, voters want to be safe first and foremost, right? If you're a business owner, if you're a mom, if you're a farmer, whatever you want to feel like you're safe. And the governor and I have been big supporters of our law enforcement, always backing the blue. I have been pushing to get the HALO Act passed here this session. I have a lot of great support behind that. That's basically saying that if our law enforcement is in the process of doing their job, or any first responder, federal, state, or local, and they tell you to back up, you have to get 25 feet back from them. And, you don't have to do a lot to convince many people that that is a much needed thing. People want to be safe. People want to make sure that, like I said earlier, John, that they have a business person at the helm, somebody that can keep South Carolina moving forward. We have an amazing track record of growth. 3 years, we continue to grow. We're the number one state for growth. U-Haul named us the number one state for one-way U-Haul drop-offs. People are coming to South Carolina because they like what we're doing. And the people want to see South Carolina continue to grow and grow intentionally. So that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm going to keep doing. That's the message I've been giving people for 8 years as lieutenant governor. And so it's an easy extension into this campaign.
Pam, what is the feedback you're getting about ICE?
People here in South Carolina support ICE. Every single one of our counties. We passed a law here in South Carolina that we can have no sanctuary cities. And John, I was asked by reporters last week what I thought about what was happening. And I said, my biggest reflection on what's happening is what bad leadership looks like. Look at Governor Walz and Mayor Fry. If you're a leader, you should be de-escalating every situation and not escalating it. And what they've done is they've incited this. I believe the Democrats want this. You see, when ICE comes to red states, you never see this. You don't see the problems. You don't see the protesting. They come in, they work with local law enforcement hand in glove. Whatever their mission is gets handled, and they're gone. What you're seeing and what we're all seeing in Minnesota is bad leadership at a state level. And I can remember my dad always saying, John, you get the government you vote for. And so, here in South Carolina, things have gone very smooth with ICE. Nobody has a negative sentiment on it. And they've gotten the government they voted for. And, concurrently, so has Minnesota, which is a really good testament why we need good, strong conservative leaders at the state level.
Tell us about your family.
I have a wonderful family. I have 3 children. My mom is 97. She lives with us. So I get a great perspective, John. She wakes up every morning. I heard your segment before talking about wellness. She would tell you that if you want to live a long, happy life, then have a purpose. And her purpose is to watch Fox News all day and brief me when I get home on everything that the president has done. So I'm very blessed that I have a wonderful family that stands by me. I don't know how you do this when you don't have the support of your family.
I don't know how you do anything without the support of your family. It's your rock, and certainly that and God, the two things out there that you always come back. I always tell my own kids, at the end of the day, everything happens. You go get married, do whatever, but at the end of the day, your family's your rock. You always come back. It's always there. Hopefully,
Exactly.
it's always there.
Exactly.
But some families not so much, and I always make this thing in our family. I've got 3 kids. The youngest one, absolute Trump supporter, sticker on his car, 100% hardcore MAGA, love Charlie Kirk, etc. My daughter lives in Florida, loves DeSantis, but she's a moderate, votes both ways, depending on the situation. And then my older son, who runs our websites, is a professor at Arizona State University, and he's basically a Marxist. So you got the
Oh
whole
my
gamut.
goodness.
Oh, totally.
John, I don't know how you do that.
But he runs my websites, and he's a brilliant young man. But you got to be able to talk, right? And so we all love each other, and we come over, we argue politics or whatever. But you got to be able to keep your family together. And sometimes, but he's not like Trump derangement syndrome. He's just a leftist, but he's not Trump.
I'm very blessed. All 3 of mine are huge Trump supporters.
Well, you're blessed. I know.
I
It
am
doesn't always turn
blessed.
out that way.
I am. So our family dinners are pretty easy when it comes to politics. But I have nieces and nephews that aren't, that don't toe the line like my kids do, that sit more moderate or a little bit left. And those get to be interesting. But I'm proud that my kids have always stood up for their conservative principles. And my youngest, the most, he has known President Trump since he was 11 and has a picture almost every year with him. And so him and his buddies, big Trump supporters, they love to go out and hunt and fish. And we're big Charlie Kirk supporters. And, that Charlie Kirk really touched our young people when your 18-year-old son calls you and says, hey, he's at college. He's like, yeah, me and all my friends were going to a prayer vigil for Charlie. And it deeply touched them, more so than young boys ever really show what happened, the horrible political assassination of Charlie Kirk.
He resonated with many young people, including my youngest son, Joe. And he was home before Kirk died, I forget, he was home for a week in the summer, in between summer baseball and going to Maryland. And I said, hey, who's your choice for president in 28? And he said, Charlie Kirk, but he's not old enough. So I got to wait until 2032. So that's how that went. Pam, final thing, I know you have to go. Your number one policy in South Carolina, you become governor. Mm-hmm. What do you want your legacy to be? What is the number one thing that you want to get done as governor of South Carolina?
So, it's funny. There's not just one thing. And I know this from being a CEO. A lot of these things fit together. I want to eliminate state income tax here in South Carolina. It's something that everybody wants to see happen. They want to keep their hard-earned dollars for themselves. But to do that, we're going to have to cut useless regulations so that the state continues to grow.
Can you really do that? I mean, can you really do that? Do you have enough money from other sources? I mean, DeSantis has figured it out. Florida's figured it. They got no income tax. Now they're going to get rid of property taxes, and they're running a surplus. Can you really do that?
Florida, like South Carolina, continues to grow, and we have record surpluses every year. We have the largest rainy day fund in our state's history, and we can. When you run efficiently, when you leverage technology, then you can shrink government. When you shrink government, you shrink cost. When you continue to become a business-friendly state, you can compete on surplus. It can and it will be done, John. I'm an accountant by trade, and so these are things that I've looked into, and we can actually accomplish this, but we got to keep everything else moving in the same direction. You can't be a one issue person. You have to, when you're the CEO of a company, just like being the CEO of your state, you got to make sure that all these things are running good, because they all have to run good to meet your objective. And so that's where becoming a business person comes in handy.
You're a formidable woman, I'll tell you that. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to beat you in this thing. Great segment. Great segment. First time that you and I have been able to talk. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for your candor. People want to follow you on social media, follow your campaign. Pam, where do they go?
They go to PamelaEvette.com. They can see where I am. We give weekly newsletters. Volunteer on the campaign. I consider it more of a movement than a campaign, and I'm having a lot of fun. I think people see that. And donations. You talked about it. You are exactly right. You have to. It takes money to win. And so on my website, you can donate, sign up for the campaign, see what I'm doing, find out about me and my family. And we're going to keep everybody updated. June 9th is going to get here really quick.
All right, Pamela Evette, thank you again for being with us. Lieutenant Governor of South Carolina, candidate for governor that'll be decided in a June 9th Republican primary. Is your primary closed?
No, and we're working on that. Republicans are definitely working on that here in South Carolina. That's why it becomes more important than ever to get big numbers. President Trump said it best when he said you got to make it too big to rig. And so get out there, vote in record numbers, and remember.
You got majorities in both houses. So if you're governor, are you going to lobby for legislation in the state house to close primaries? Because having lived in Virginia a long time with this open primary thing, it's tough to figure out who's voting for what. You have a closed primary, you don't have to worry about crossovers. You know who voted in a Republican primary. Are you going to work for that? Because the open thing, to me now, just doesn't make any sense.
John, you're right. I've already kind of made my thoughts known on that. There are two bills actually working its way through the House right now to close primaries. There's lots of talk going on about it. It almost completely consumed the first week of session, but I believe we'll eventually get there. And yes, I believe Republicans should only Republicans should be voting for who they want their candidate to be in the general election. And that is where the sentiment, it was a question that was put on during one of our voting cycles. It was just a question on the ballot. It won overwhelmingly. And so now we have to work together to make sure we get this across the finish line.
As it should. Pam, thanks for being with us. I really enjoyed it.
John, me too.
I'll see you soon. You're on the John Fredericks Media Network.